Mark here from Mark 2.0. I'm going to throw it over to Brian to introduce our next guest. We are just so thrilled to have. Go right ahead, Brian. Take it away.
Amber Fox, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
This is a lot of
Amber
fun.
Dawn, that is a great name. Who did that? Your mom, your dad? Was that you?
Both of them, I guess. I mean, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
No, it is my real name. I get that a lot, though. Fox is my married name, but Amber Dawn is my actual first and middle name.
That
so I guess
is
it
great.
is my name now.
They did really good with that.
Oh, yeah.
So your parents, can I start with your parents? I like successful people's parents, because there always seem to be great parents driving this whole thing from the start. Sometimes I should say. So where were your parents born?
Okay, so my parents were both born in Indianapolis, Indiana, which is where I'm from originally. So we lived in the big city. I live in a very small town now, but I kind of grew up and my parents held very, I don't know what you want to call it, normal jobs. They worked retail, they worked in hospitals, and none of them were in the industry. I get that a lot. A lot of people want to know if like someone in my family was in the industry before me, and that's not the case. But they definitely instilled in me to go for whatever I wanted to do and to be happy with what I do and not to necessarily worry about money. To a certain extent, of course, when you have a family, but it was always do what you love to do and make sure you're happy first. So
that's awesome. So what age did you say, what age did you first maybe think about acting? Let's start there.
28.
Wow.
I was in my 20s. Yeah. So it was something that I probably should have realized that I wanted to do when I was younger, because my cousins and my brother and I, we always got out the old video cameras and would do like little skits on the video cameras. And I absolutely loved it, even up until I was like 16, 17, even though they were a lot younger than me, I was still like wanting to be in there doing it. So,
cool.
And I love talent shows and doing the plays at school, but back then it was just like something fun. I didn't even think about the fact of it becoming a career. And so I just kind of fell into it by accident.
Interesting. So what was your focus then as a young child or as a teenager, maybe?
As a teenager, I was one of those that kind of didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went from wanting to be a teacher to wanting to be a nurse to like, I really had no idea. And then I actually got pregnant with my son at 17. So like everything kind of just stopped for me at that point. Like, it was more of let me get through this and see how this is going to go. And my parents were super supportive of that too. So I didn't go to college until after I was a little bit older, like my young 20s, after my son was a little bit older.
Wow. So 28, you started acting. What got you started? What's the first things you started doing?
So I was watching a show called One Tree Hill at the time. And
I've worked on it.
Oh, you have? What did you do on it?
I was a student, just background as a student.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, that's how I got started actually, but it was a funny story because I didn't even realize it was filmed 2 hours from my house when I started watching the show.
Nice.
So yeah. So I'm one of those, like, I get into a show and then I go on the internet and I want to look at all these interviews from the actors and all that kind of stuff. And I just randomly came upon an ad one day that said they were looking for extras. And it said Wilmington, North Carolina. And I was like, that's literally like 2 hours from here. How did I not know that? So this was back in 2000 and probably 7 or 8. So it was, you had to fill out like this card and stick it in the mail and put it with your picture and mail it off and all this good stuff when they first started doing extras casting. So I did that. It was one of those things back then. I just thought this is like a crazy dream. It'll never happen. I'll just go ahead and send my stuff anyway. A couple of weeks later, I got a phone call from the extras casting company and they asked me if I wanted to do an episode. So that's kind of how I got my start. And then I loved it and just like kept doing it. So I ended up working on like 6 different episodes of One Tree Hill.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great. Were you a student or what was your character?
I did. So I random, like, so when you do extra work, a lot of times you'll be different people in every episode.
Exactly.
So I was everything from like a young college kid watching a basketball game to then I would go the next week and be a high school student, and just like pedestrian. I did they had an episode that was kind of like set in a different decade, so I got that one was kind of fun because I got to go through the hair and makeup to do like a 50s vibe.
Oh yeah,
so a little bit of everything really on that show. Yeah.
Wow. So things have gone pretty well since then, I guess. I mean, how long did it take you to where you're like, I'm doing this for a living?
Um, it started off just doing extra work. I was in college at the time. Like I said, I was going for my accounting degree. I had met my husband by that point. We had a second child. So I was just kind of doing the extra work in my spare time for fun, little bit that I did have. But it was one of those things that like once I started working in the accounting field and still trying to take time off for vacations to go do extra work, it was like being on a film set was something that I couldn't get out of my head. I just knew that like this is what I wanted to do. And I was completely miserable, even though I was really good at accounting. I was miserable doing the whole 9 to 5, sitting behind a desk type thing. So it happened slowly. It happened that my husband started his own business and I was able to stay home with the kids. And he's like, now is the best time for you to kind of, pursue your acting thing because you didn't have time before. So I did. It started off slow because my kids were young when I first started. So it was a lot of like indie films and student films right close to home. My kids are a lot older now, so I'm able to travel a lot more. It's kind of just grown really slowly from like 1 to 2 lines on a student film to now doing feature films that end up on Amazon Prime and being the lead character. Lots and lots of classes. I think I knew I wanted to do it back then full time, but I wouldn't say it's been but the last 2 or 3 years that it's really gotten to be a full-time thing for me because it's a
Mhm.
lot of work to get to that point.
Yeah.
So awesome. Congratulations.
One thing that
Thank
stood
you
out
so
to me
much.
was watching Christmas Proposal. Talk about that. Talk about how you landed that role,
Okay,
and your character was just so great in that.
thank you so much. Okay, so A Christmas Proposal was actually filmed in Wilmington as well. Over the years, I've kind of become my own PR person and posting all the work that I've been doing and kind of networking with filmmakers online and all that kind of stuff. I was friends with the filmmaker who did A Christmas Proposal for many, many years on Facebook, and we hadn't really talked one-on-one, but we kind of, supported each other in our different things that we were doing. I had some friends that had been in his films before, and I just saw him post one day that he was looking to cast his next film and he was taking open auditions. So I took that advantage to like go ahead and send my information to him. I booked the audition. He sent me everything I needed to know, and I did the audition for Laura, is the character's name in A Christmas Proposal, and she's such a fun character. I had worked with him once before on Hair, Love, and Racism, so he kind of knew me and knew my work, but I had to audition for him originally. Yes.
Wow, that's fascinating because it's such a. And do you get good feedback from that movie? You must.
I do. It was a very, very fun to work on. I like the fact that it wasn't a pure comedy. It was kind of drama in there, but there was comedy as well. My character was definitely the comic relief. I do get great feedback. It actually ended up on Peacock TV, which is like probably one of the biggest things to date besides Amazon Prime that I've been a part of. So, and I'm still to this day getting comments of Christmas Proposal, and it came out last Christmas. So a lot of people are wanting to know where it's going to be at this Christmas. So hopefully still Peacock TV, Amazon Prime, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's on. I know it's on Peacock TV, and your character in it really seemed to evolve as the storyline went on. Like by
She
the
did.
end,
She
when you
did.
were contacting your family to get back together, it was
Mhm.
just so like heartwarming.
Yeah, thank you so
know?
much. Yeah, because originally, like, if you watch the film at first, my character just kind of seems like the comic relief and doesn't have, I know, much going on there as far as like emotional connection to anyone or heartwarming, like you said. But I definitely love how at the very end of the film, she kind of gets to reconnect with her family,
Yeah.
and you get to kind of see her in a different light than just like the comic relief.
Now, as far as films go, if you had to choose between working on or films or TV, if you had to choose between
Mhm.
working on a drama or a comedy or horror, thriller,
Mhm.
you name it, which one would you prefer?
That's funny because people ask me that a lot, and I still don't have like a set answer because I love both for different reasons. I love any kind of film and any genre just because I love digging into a character and kind of creating them from what's in the script to like giving them a backstory and all that kind of stuff. I like comedy because it's more laid back, I think, on set because it's a lot funner and you laugh a lot more. When you do like the horror thriller, I love that genre too, but it's more intense, and it's definitely not as lighthearted and fun. You have your moments in between takes, but once the camera starts rolling and you really got to be in that character, it can be pretty depressing depending on, like what kind of character you're playing for sure. But I
Sure.
like both equally, honest.
Yeah.
And I like getting to do different things each time I do a different movie too, to kind of change it up.
Oh, that's great.
I'd really like to know what it was like being on The Walking Dead. I mean, I know that was like a while ago for you, but it's just so popular. I mean,
Right?
what was that
It was a
experience like?
while ago. Sometimes it feels like it was a long time ago, and sometimes it feels like it was yesterday, but it was definitely the biggest thing I have done, production size wise. And it was so early on in my career, so I was super lucky for that. I'm trying to remember. So I got contacted with the extras casting company through some other projects that I had done, because back when I was doing it, just for fun as a hobby, I went down to Atlanta when I would have like a whole week off. I'd just go stay in Atlanta and submit, because they film a lot more in Atlanta than they do in North Carolina. And so the casting company knew me. I had submitted one day for just another movie they were doing, and I was in Walmart. I can remember I'm in Walmart with my kids, and I just randomly get this text message from the casting company, and they said, "We're looking for a featured police officer for The Walking Dead. Would you be interested in the director looking at your photo for possibilities?" And I was like, "Well, yes, of
Yeah.
course." Like, I'm like, I
Oh,
was
yeah.
Why would you say
watching
no
the
to that?
show.
Woo.
Right? Who would say no? I was already watching the show. It was already one of my favorite shows. I
Kids
remember
were
standing
leaving.
in Walmart, just jumping up and down in the middle of Walmart, and people are like, "What is wrong with this woman?" Um, but then it was the waiting game. You send your stuff, and they're looking at like 5 or 6 different people. I had to send my resume, which I was super nervous about at the time because it was still really bare. It was just a few student films and a few classes and stuff like that. But it was a little bit more than extra work, so they could see that I had experience. And about 2 weeks later, I heard back that I had gotten the role. I didn't know anything about it being featured, as far as like having a name, because my character actually had a name, Officer Bello. At the time, I just thought it was featured extra, which just meant a little more camera time, but I was just excited to get to work on the show in any capacity. And that show absolutely changed my life. It just blew up after that. Like, people found me on social media. I started getting a fan following for my 2 episodes character that didn't talk on Walking Dead, but the show's so huge. It opened a lot of doors. So I'm forever grateful.
So it must have been pretty cool just walking in there and seeing a big budget thing and being in the middle of it. I mean, what in your memory really kind of impressed you when you got there?
So when I got there, I had done like One Tree Hill and shows like that as an extra. So I had done like the big budget shows, but this experience was different because the thing that got me is they treated me as one of the actors because it was such a featured role. So it was a totally
Nice.
different
Nice.
experience. Yeah. I showed up and I said, I still didn't know until the day I started working that I was going to have a name. I'm like, I'm playing, the female featured police officer, whereas extras holding. And the guy just kind of looked at me like, "We don't have any extras today." And I was like, "No, I promise I'm supposed to be here. They gave me this information." And he was like, "Well, we don't have extras holding. You're playing Officer Bello, right?" And I was like, "Who?"
Oh,
And they were like, "You're Amber Dawn Fox." And I was like, "Yeah." They were like, "Oh, your character has a name. It's Officer Bello. Here's your trailer. We'll come get you for makeup in a
awesome.
few minutes." And at that point, I'm just like, this is not what I was expecting at all. Like, I was expecting to get excited about getting to work on the show, but I was comparing it to the experiences I had had before where all the extras sit together in a tent or in another room, which is great too, but it was definitely a totally different experience. And I got to be
Oh,
up close and personal, get introduced to the main cast. And I really used it as an experience to kind of watch them work as I was in the scene too, because I knew that one day I wanted to have those speaking roles, because before that I had really only had one speaking role in a student film. So I definitely learned a lot from them.
It shows
that's
too.
awesome.
with
That's a
your career,
feel-good
how it's
story.
going.
You
That's
go
really-
in
Yeah.
and it just all that happens, that must have been a killer day.
Mm.
It was crazy. And like I said, just not expected at all. And then it was actually a recurring role. So I got to work like 4 different days on the show. So that was nice too, getting to kind of keep going back to the same set instead of like kind of going home and waiting for the next job. It was a lot of fun.
And where was that filmed at? What city?
So they film all around in the Atlanta area, like smaller
Mm.
towns. So the hospital stuff that I did was in an abandoned hospital in Noonan, Georgia,
Mm.
which I think they still use for film sets a lot.
So the Beasts of the Field, and we wanted to know what that was like too.
Yeah, that
Oh
was a
yeah,
great
so
movie.
thank you. So Beasts of the Field is on Amazon Prime. We filmed it in 2018, and that one has a whole nother story. So we had a hurricane coming to North Carolina about a week before I was supposed to film in Kentucky for Beasts of the Field. So I kind of had to leave early because I was like, if I get stuck here, because I'm in a small town where, like, if the roads flood, you're kind of stuck for a couple of days after a hurricane where you can't go anywhere. So I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna leave a week early and just hang out in Kentucky so I don't, miss filming. And so I go down there and I wait it out, and I meet the director, Chase Dudley, who is absolutely amazing. I've worked with him again in a film called Locked In that's coming out. But so I got to kind of spend that time getting into character, and it was kind of this thriller film where we're out in the woods like the entire movie. And we finally get to start shooting, and the hurricane had turned from North Carolina and went to Kentucky. So we filmed the entire film kind of in a hurricane almost. Not as an extreme hurricane, of course, but it was like raining nonstop, or it would stop raining for a little bit and we would start filming, and then the sky would fall out. So we'd have to go around the cover. So it was
So the
very,
emotions
very,
were real.
it like
Mm.
when things like that happen for film, because it makes it a lot easier to get into character. Kind of the same thing when I filmed Locked In. I ended up being allergic to hay, and the entire set was covered in hay, and I didn't know how allergic I was. So I was like sick the entire time we filmed. But I'm playing a character that's being held captive, so I kind of used it for the character.
Wow, that is
Yeah.
a good story. Wow, fascinating.
Mm.
Oh, that's terrible and great at the same time.
Yeah.
I know. And everybody says it must be so glamorous to be an actress, and I'm like, not always. You just don't know. You just don't know.
Fortunately, those worked out well. So, what do you watch? I mean, do you like these kinds of things you do, horror films and stuff like that?
I do. I've been watching horror films since I was probably too young to be watching horror films. I watched like the Jason, the Friday the 13th, the Chucky movies,
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street, all when I was like 7, 8 years old. So I've really grown up watching horror a lot. I really watch a whole lot of different stuff though, which does help in the industry for sure.
Yeah, definitely. If you had the chance to be a chance to star on a show, what show would you be on?
Ooh, that is a
Like,
good
like show would you want to infiltrate?
Yeah, so I would probably say, and this show has been on forever, but I would want to be on Grey's Anatomy. I've watched every season of Grey's Anatomy.
Wow.
I think it would be a challenge to play like a doctor or a surgeon where you have to learn all the medical terminology and stuff like that. So it's not, I like a challenge though. So that would definitely be something I would want to do.
If you could work with one actor, who would it be?
One, I have to pick one.
Yeah, you have
That's
to pick
hard.
one. Let's narrow it down.
Okay. Well, I always say that I want to work with someone who's been in the industry for a long time, because that's definitely my goal, is to kind of keep this going. So I would have to say I'm going to go with Tom Hanks, because he's also played so many different types of characters too. Like, I love that he's been in the industry for so long, but also doesn't play the same thing all the time.
That's smart. Yeah.
The last two things I saw him do were so great. It was the one with the robot and the one where he was commander of that battleship. And
Yes.
man, did he kill that.
I know. And both of those were so good. And then like when he turns around and plays something like Mr. Rogers, or
Oh yeah.
the voice in
that
Toy
too. I didn't
Story,
even think
or
about
You're
yeah,
right.
like
You're right.
Yeah.
Good
I think
choice.
that's what I mean, is just that he can transform into so many different types of characters.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody mentoring you? Do you turn to
Yes,
anybody?
I mean, I would say I have more than one. I'm always taking classes, and I always feel like I try to take classes from people who are doing what I want to do, like at least one step above me. So right now I'm taking classes with an actress named Christine Horn, who is out of LA, and she's been doing this for a long time. And she's just guest starred on like almost any show you could think of. It's one of those where you see her face, you would probably say, I've seen her in, but you don't like know her, but she's been in
One of
so
those.
many
Yeah.
different things. Yeah. And then I have like a manager out of LA. She's not my manager. She's an ex-manager in LA. She kind of teaches the business side. And she's been my mentor as far as learning how to navigate the business side. Because that's kind of when things got good for me, is when I learned not just the acting side, but that you have to kind of treat it like a business and all that stuff. And she mentors me in that stuff for sure.
That's
Now,
awesome.
as
Shout out
far
to
as
her.
the roles that you've been in, describe for us one of your favorite scenes out of a movie or TV show that you did.
Okay. That is good. I'll say in Beasts of the Field, we had a scene where I had to fight with one of the other actresses, and it was kind of my first big stunt scene I had to do on my own, which was a lot of fun. It's definitely not something I would have ever saw myself doing before, but I'm always up for anything when I do acting. So like I really like the process of learning that it was almost like a dance, because we did like a lot of choreography, and we're gonna do this and then we're gonna do this. So doing that was a lot of fun, just because it was something way different. We were in a creek rolling around and getting all muddy and all
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Mud wrestling, basically.
that's my kind of fun, muddy fun.
Mhm.
So, I mean, speaking of doing other things, do you ever have like, do you do anything else like hobby wise? Do you do crosswords or something? What do you do to unwind?
I don't do crosswords.
Crosswords.
Nothing against them. I mean, honestly, I don't know if I have time for I have 3 kids, so I'm
Oh,
like
yeah.
soccer mom. When I'm not
Okay.
acting, I'm just the epitome of a soccer mom, taking them here, there, and everywhere. But we
That's
like
why I
to
made a
travel in
joke,
the
I guess,
summer.
because I also have kids and 0 hobbies.
I know. I mean,
They
you don't
are
have
my
time.
hobby. Yeah.
They
Their
really
hobbies
are.
are my hobbies.
I love to travel, and I get to do a lot of it with my acting, but like in the summer when they're out of school, we take them to Disney, or theme parks are a big
Wow,
thing for
nice.
us. We like to go to lots
Mm.
of different theme parks and stuff, which I still love, even though we won't say how old I am. Um,
Hey, I have trouble leaving Disney once I
Yeah.
get in there. It's that good to me.
I do it
I know
sometimes more than they
exactly.
do.
Mhm. I don't like going back to the real world once I get in there.
I know.
One thing that
Um,
I wanted to ask is,
Oh, sorry.
in 2016, you did the movie School Night. I saw it on your resume. Where can you
Mhm.
watch that? Because it seems like it'd be a great one that you were in. You
Thank you.
played a
No,
teacher, right?
I don't know if they actually released it. So basically what
One of
that
those
was
things.
is a local high school had like I guess you would call it like a club, filmmaking club type thing, which was
Hmm.
led by a woman who did some independent films. And they got a hold of me and asked if I could come do like a day where I would speak to them about the industry and all that stuff. And then after I did that, they kind of just asked me if I would mind helping out with their production and just having a small role in it. So of course I said yes, because I thought it was a great chance to like kind of share what I had learned and get on set with them and kind of show them the ropes a little bit. And it was absolutely a good time. They had a premiere for it here locally at a small theater, but then I hadn't really heard anything else about it. But like I said, it was just for like the high school club type thing, so they may not have put it out anywhere.
Yeah, and probably being that old, they probably
Yeah.
won't put it out, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, for high school kids that hadn't been in the industry, they really knew what they were doing. I was surprised.
Yeah, it seems by the description that it was a really good film.
It was, and I got to play a ghost basically. So I'm like the substitute teacher that comes in talking about like all these old stories and stuff that happened at the school years ago. And then on the flip side, at the end of the film, you find out that I'm actually like dead, and I was a ghost the whole time.
Yeah.
And it's
Ooh,
just like
that's a
this
good
little creepy
character.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
That's
was
great.
fun. It was.
What about your experience writing? Because you did a short reflection, right?
I did. I did. It's the only thing I've ever written. It's something that I've kind of always had in the back of my head as something else to explore in the industry. I really honestly haven't had a lot of time to put into it.
Sure.
Acting is always going to come first to me, but I was with a group and we were just kind of all coming up with ideas of like little short films we could do and film. And I came up with the idea for Reflection, which is basically it's a very, very short film. I think it's only like a minute or two long, but it's just this girl that's like washing blood off of her hands, and she looks up in the mirror and she doesn't know why she's there or how she got there. And it's just basically this little it's kind of like this little creepy thing that kind of ends where you don't really know, but you want to see where it goes because it could possibly be turned into something else later. A lot of short films will do that. They'll keep it kind of open ended, so if it ever comes back around, it could be turned into a feature or a longer short film or something like that. So that's as
Yeah.
far as I've gotten with writing, but it's definitely
Yeah.
something that I want to explore more as the years go on.
Now, where do
You're
you see
right,
yourself
though.
5
So
years
many-
from now?
Yeah, so many platforms. I just wanted to say,
Oh, yeah.
that thing, who knows what could come of that
Right.
later, I mean, sorry to interrupt you, Mark.
No,
Go ahead,
you're
but
fine.
yeah, that's
You're
really
good.
cool how you did that. Sorry.
No, I
Oh,
was just
thank-
gonna say,
thank
where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Yeah, so 5 years from now, obviously I still want to be doing what I'm doing, but hope to kind of be booking the speaking roles in the bigger network shows. I've gotten to the point now where I'm doing really, really well in the indie industry as far as, having the lead roles and getting on streaming services. And I have a great agent, a great manager, and I'm starting to get the auditions and for the speaking roles in the big network shows that I used to do extra work for.
Mhm.
So in 5 years, that's my definite goal, is to start booking those, because I've gotten super close and they're starting to call me back more and more. But
And it seems like you're in the
one of
right
those long
area.
games.
The East Coast is
Yeah.
booming, don't you think? The
It
Southeast.
is. Atlanta's huge, and then North Carolina is starting to pick back up. It went through this thing where there was a lot of stuff filming in North Carolina, and then it slowed down because of political stuff, and everything moved to Atlanta.
Okay.
And now it's gotten to where they're starting to come back. So definitely the right area.
Yeah.
We are
that's
talking to
great.
a lot of cool people, making a lot of friends. Ron Blake spoke highly of you, and
William
a lot of
Tokarski,
people
too.
were just, William, and they're
Yes.
just like so nice and down to earth, just like you, and
Oh, thank you.
gosh,
Yeah, and it's funny because I know both of those guys. Obviously, it's such a small world almost, because I didn't know that they knew each other, but I knew them separately from different things. I had worked with Ron on some indie films, and
oh, that keeps happening on the show.
William,
It's
I
so
think
funny.
we did Comic Cons together. Yeah.
Oh yeah, cool.
Hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd really like to share with the viewers? I mean,
So I think I've got 2 feature films that are in post-production right now that will be coming out soon. Because I know that a lot of my followers have kind of already watched all the stuff and are like, hey, what's next? What's next? So I'm always trying to keep them up to date. I've got that Locked In that I mentioned. It's actually, we're doing a public premiere on October 28th in Louisville, Kentucky.
ooh.
Nice.
If anybody's in that area, they can definitely message me on social media and I can send them the information. And then I also have a comedy feature film that's in post-production called Boo Boo the Fool, where I played, it's from the same filmmaker as Christmas Proposal we were talking about. He asked me back to be a lead this time in his next
Mhm.
comedy film. So
Nice.
it should be good. But mostly I just want to say, if you're going for something that you want to do, definitely don't give up, because it's been a very long game for me. Like I said, it started probably 2007, 2008, and I didn't start doing speaking roles till 2015. And I'm just now getting to the point where I feel like it's a full-time thing. So it took quite a while.
So we get a lot of screenwriters, other actors. If people want to look for you, they just put in Amber Dawn Fox, right? On
Mhm.
Facebook,
Yep.
Instagram, and whatever.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter is Amber Dawn Fox with the underscore, because somebody stole my name.
Mhm.
You know what I
somebody
meant
else
to
had-
ask you? Your 5-year goal, you talked about a series. Would you prefer series over movies? Have you ever considered
I
that?
like both. Series are just, especially if you can get a reoccurring role in a series, it's a lot more steady work.
Good point.
And I watch a lot more TV than I do movies. So I guess it's just something that it's the first thing I think of, but I definitely would do both for sure.
Well, TV has just gotten so darn good. It's
Uh-huh.
not what it was. Like a series now is like a 10-hour movie.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
it's just,
true.
especially with people like Amazon, that's a
Mhm.
trailblazing thing right there.
Oh
And
yeah, all the streaming services now, there's just so much more TV and even the movies go straight to streaming sometimes now. So
that is so
Yeah.
awesome. You're doing so well. And gosh,
thank you so
Well,
much.
one thing
Gosh,
that I
much
wanted to
success,
ask
I
you
hope to
before
future.
we end this is, you're in the Southeast. Explain why you enjoy living in the Southeast, and what was one of your favorite filming locations in the Southeast? Because you predominantly work in the Southeast.
I do. Because even Kentucky is considered the Southeast. Southeast is such a big area as far as the film industry is concerned. It's like Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Kentucky, Tennessee. But I like the fact that I can easily get to those places. Like I can drive to any of those states and it's less than a day. So I can work in a lot of different areas. I like living here. I live in a very, very small town in North Carolina, 800 people. So I like that I can go to these big cities and film and enjoy the city life, but then I can come home and it's quiet and there's not a lot going on, and I can just enjoy family and do the mom thing. So I like that as opposed to maybe living in like New York or LA. But I also like that, you know, they've got so much going on here. It's almost, Atlanta's almost outbeating one of New York, I think it is. It's one of the two big ones. Atlanta's like right up there at number 3, about to surpass one of them. But
A hot topic on this
filming
show.
locations. Do what now?
A
Yeah.
hot topic on this show. We talk
Atlanta.
about that quite a bit.
Yeah.
How like Atlanta's like doing some serious damage.
It is. If I didn't have kids, I would probably consider moving to Atlanta. Just because there is a lot more going there, but it's nice that I'm still close enough, like I said, to be able to drive if I did get work in Atlanta. Filming locations, I've got to film. The cool thing about the Southeast is I've filmed in big cities, small towns, like completely deserted areas, forests, beaches. We've kind of got everything. So I can't really pick one filming location because it's so different every time I go, but I do enjoy filming on the beach, I will say, especially when it's nice and warm.
Nice.
And speaking of your kids, how did they react to all this? And I know at least your first one is rather, you know, a little bit older. Is he
Yep.
involved at all?
He has been. So he's 18 now. He just started going to college and all that good stuff. So I've been doing it, you know, almost all his life, pretty much, because I started so long ago that he was only like 9-10 years old when I started. So I think to him it's normal now. It wasn't necessarily at first. It was super exciting at first to the kids. You know, they would go to school, tell all their friends. Now it's just kind of like if somebody one of their friends brings it up, yeah, that's my mom. Can we talk about something else?
That's so cool.
But-
Though.
That's
I
hilarious.
know
Yeah.
it's hard for a kid though, you know, when it's your
I think
parent.
it's a little weird to them sometimes. And some of the stuff I do, I don't necessarily show them, especially the younger ones, because you know, like the upcoming horror film I'm in, if it was rated, would probably be rated R. So they can't watch everything I do, but I think it's just, like I said, it's just normal to them now because I've been doing it for almost 10 years. So but they've all kind of gotten involved in it in some way over the years. They're not so much interested anymore, but we all worked on Under the Dome together as a featured family as extras in one of the episodes. So that was fun. Yeah. My youngest was like 2. So she had no clue what was going on, but the older 2 thought it was completely awesome. But I don't think any of them are actually interested in pursuing it right now. It was just kind of something fun to do at the time.
That is going to pay off later. Something tells me.
That's right. If they change their mind.
Yeah, just about everyone at some point goes, you know, especially with someone with a great mom who has a way in on that, you know?
Right.
Wow.
See, I would love that if I would have had something like that, because I just had to kind of figure it all out myself type thing. So just
You're
to
so
have
impressive.
someone
I'm
like
quite
that.
sure
You
they're
can
gonna
play just
follow.
about anything. That's the thing. People need to, you know, go on and we'll post at your IMDb page and check out your work and follow you, because your future is going to be bright in this industry.
Very
thank you so
impressive
much.
work.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, I had a great time. You want to ask
So did
anything
I.
else, Mark?
No, this
Yeah.
was great. We really appreciate it. Amber, Don, Fox, everyone.
Yeah, you know,
Thanks so much.
please, if something happens, reach
Yeah.
out to us, because you know I loved your stories tonight, and I
Oh,
want to
it's
hear
great.
some more.
Yeah.
You know, so
Isn't it?
gosh, just please let us know what's going on and come on back, and anything that's going on, we'd love to hear about it.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Thank you so much for having me. I had a
Yeah,
good
this
time.
was great. Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much,
Amber.
Amber. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Mark 2.0, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Take care, Amber. Bye.
Subscribe, share. Thanks.
If you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. It's totally free, and you can unsubscribe at any time, and it really helps us out a lot. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked the video.